iron. Just keep your hands in. So when if she does want to stop practicing,
she practiced with private. My own.
צלם פחות? לא לקלל? חליפה חדשה? לא נראה לי. זה חליפה חדשה שלך? לא נראה לי.
May I invite our speakers to come here, please?
Ganz wichtig.
It is a privilege to officially open the 9th International Dental Congress on Modern Pain Control here in the Eternal City of Jerusalem. My personal odyssey in the field of pain and anxiety control in dentistry started back in 1983 at the University of Southern California. I was attending a sedation course conducted by our well-known colleague Stanley Malovin. And while interviewing my first patient, we commented about our foreign accent. To my surprise, the student introduced himself as a petroleum engineering student from Damascus, Syria. I responded by telling him that I was from Jerusalem, Israel. If a few moments previously he was a dental phobic, now he was hysterical. To my surprise, through IV sedation, I succeeded in delivering the treatment that was planned, and we parted as friends. And from that moment, I knew sedation works. And maybe it could be a possible solution to the Mid-Eastern conflict. Since then, I've been attending most of the ADSA meetings, went to my first IFDAS Congress at Bologna, and with the encouragement of Peter Jacobson and Norman Trigger and Wolfgang Jacobs, I established ISAD, the Israeli Society for Sedation, Analgesia, and Anesthesia in Dentistry. And later on, a course in dental sedation was instituted at the Hebrew University School, Hadassah School of Dental Medicine, and the Ministry of Health adopted some guidelines for office-based sedation and anesthesia in accordance to a consensus development conference that ISAD has initiated and organized. It was my hope that in hosting the 9th International Dental Congress here in Israel, the local dental community would be exposed to the varied armamentarium available to them in alleviating pain and anxiety in the dental environment. It was also important to me to emphasize the paramount importance of diagnosing and treating emergency situations in the dental office. Of course, I also was eager to bring friends from all over the world to visit us here in Israel and to get to know this little part of the world a little better. I'm happy to say that we have with us here tonight delegations from 22 countries. I'd like to warmly say hello and welcome our friends from Austria, Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Hong Kong, Russia, South Africa, Japan, Mexico, Norway, New Zealand, Poland, Slovenia, Sweden, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Turkey, the United Kingdom, the United States, and of course the Israeli community. Thank you for coming. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the many people who have given their time and effort in helping to organize this Congress. First of all, I'd like to thank my wife, Tvia, who worked hand in hand with me. Thank you, Tvia. I'd also like to thank the committee members who, without their valuable time and help, this event would not have been possible. And finally, I'd like to thank the Congress Secretary, Tzipi Lakser of International, in assuring that this Congress be a success. I'd like to mention with appreciation the financial aid we received from the following sponsors: Ahava Dead Sea Laboratories, Aventis Pharma. Now I'd like to introduce our first speaker, the President of IFDAS, the International Federation for Dental Anesthesia Societies, Dr. John Sinclair. Even though living in the far-off reaches of the world in New Zealand, Dr. Sinclair has worked tirelessly in furthering the aims of IFDAS throughout the globe. Please receive warmly Dr. Sinclair.
Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, Dr. Kaufman made reference to accents. I think one of the first things that you will notice is that mine is rather strange, and that you will fairly rapidly confuse our accent with our close neighbours, Australia. And I have to hastily add to those Australians that are here that we are separated from you by 1,200 miles of wild ocean, and we are not a sixth state of Australia at all. And what is even more disconcerting is when I arrived in this lovely city yesterday afternoon, it was rather disconcerting to find Australian flags all over the place. And I suddenly thought to myself, someone has got this wrong somewhere or other. It really should be New Zealand flags, but I have been rather reconciled by the fact that on the podium tonight we do have a New Zealand flag and there's not an Australian one in sight. Running an organisation such as this has really been a lot of fun. It is a truly an international organisation. It encompasses societies far and wide of different nationalities who all come together with this one common cause of dealing with pain and anxiety and its control in dentistry. And we are honoured that we are holding this 9th Congress in such a beautiful city as Jerusalem. And I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Federation to congratulate Professor Kaufman and his team of organisers on producing what is a very first-class program, which I'm sure you are all going to thoroughly enjoy for the next 2 or 3 days. I know that a lot of you have come from a very far distance to attend, and I am sure you will not be disappointed in the quality of the program, not only the scientific part, but there's also the other most important aspect to any Congress such as this is the social aspect, where we get the opportunity to meet with friends, renew old acquaintances, and are able to exchange ideas. And to some extent, that is probably an even more important part of a Congress such as this, because it's through that interchange of ideas that the knowledge of our particular 9th Congress on modern pain control, and when I first became associated with this some 6 to 9 years ago, it was then called Modern Pain Control, and I'm pleased to see that that name has been adhered to over this long period of time. And we now have the 9th Congress, and the Next Congress will be held in Edinburgh in 3 years' time, and that will again be the 10th Modern Congress on Pain Control. To you all, I would extend a most warm welcome from the Federation. I am pleased to see so many people here, and I am sure that you will thoroughly enjoy your stay in this most magnificent city of Jerusalem, and it is most appropriate that we are holding this meeting here in the year 2000, which is very appropriate. Again, Liza, thank you very much, and thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. Thank you.
I must admit, for me it was a real pleasure to see so many of my friends over here coming from so many places around the world. I never thought when I came in this evening to see so many of these friends. And I must admit it gave me a wonderful feeling to see that, but in another field. Dear Chairman, my dear friend Eliezer, his wife Tzvia, Dr. Sinclair, President of the IFDAS, Professor Ben Sasson, in public health, and that's my field. And as a general practitioner, I considered myself a layman in those super interesting and extremely visceral pain, which is poorly localized and often spreads from the injured organ to other regions, psychogenic pain, some of which arise in patients' imagination, and others, and others, and others. No doubt, you that sit over here will be dealing with all the variety of pains.
Congress has had the support of both dental schools here in Israel. Representing the Tel Aviv University School of Dental Medicine, Professor Ilana Eli, head of the scientific committee, who did an excellent job in putting together an exciting program. Unfortunately, Professor Herb Yudas will not be with us tonight, and he sends his apologies and sent his wishes for a successful Congress. We also got the support of the Israeli Dental Association. However, Dr. Yitzhak Chen, who was supposed to be here tonight, is attending a conference in Prague, and he sends his wishes for a very successful Congress to all of you. We are extremely honored this evening to have with us the rector of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, Professor Menachem Ben Sasson. Professor Menachem Ben Sasson is a world-recognized historian who has taken upon himself the difficult task of leading the prestigious Institute of the Hebrew University into the 21st century. Professor Ben Sasson is an expert in the social and intellectual history of the medieval Jewry in Muslim lands. He earned his degree at the Hebrew University and spent a postdoctoral year at the Rothschild Fellow of the Ginza Research Unit at the Cambridge University. He is a research fellow in New York, Philadelphia, Jerusalem, and St. Petersburg. His major publications include Jews in the Era of Transition, the Traditional World, the Jews of Sicily, and the Rise of the Local Jewish Community in Muslim lands. Professor Ben Sasson has held a number of administrative positions, which include Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Humanities, Chairperson of the Research Committee of the Faculty of Humanities, the Chairperson of the Ben Tzvi Institute for Research of Oriental Jewry. In 1997, Professor Ben Sasson was awarded the Fahar Prize for Jewish History and the Ben Tzvi Prize for the study of Jewish heritage. The same year he was appointed to the position of the rector of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. It is a great honor and pleasure to have Professor Menachem Ben-Sasson here with us this evening. Please receive Professor Ben-Sasson.
Mr. Sinclair, Wienemann, Chairperson, Head of the Conference, Professor Kaufman. First, I think that the 4 pages that you've just heard are proof that I know nothing with regard to medicine, not to speak about pain. My humble contribution to this conference are 5 alive people who were rescued from an accident at the entrance of this parking lot this evening. A young lady shouted and said, "Look, you should see where you're driving to." And why should I actually? But we need these 5 participants in the conference. So another 5 out of the 22 countries, people who came from 22 countries, are a contribution, a humble contribution directed at the Hebrew University this evening, painless. They want to develop themselves, the city, the region, and maybe even the world, on a basis of a new common language, the scientific language. The scientific language that you spoke in Jerusalem from the first evening of the conference till the end of it. Language of peace, language of future, which takes us back to the present, and to my congratulations to everybody who came.
Thank you very much, Professor Ben-Sasson, for your interesting talk. We invite you now to watch the Sight and Sound show that will be in a few minutes, and I want to thank all the speakers for their time and for their words. Thank you.
מארגנים עכשיו. זה חברים שלנו. אז אם אני מארגן את זה, נכון? זה אחלה. אני לא יודעת אם יש אבא וניר לפס.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Fine.
I have attended now, this is my 3rd, and they seem to get better and better, and they uphold a very high standard. And I'm sure that all of you who have participated in the Congress proceedings for this week will agree that it's been a very first-class effort. So I think I'd like to thank first of all the organising committee, who has spent so many hours in making sure that it's a very successful venture for us all. One of the interesting things that I found when I look back through past presidents, all of whom have been involved in organising congresses like this, is that they have a lead-in period of something like and everything fell into place. And the exciting thing about it is that when I came here and I watched her standing at the end of the registration desk with a look of perplexed horror on her face, and saying, "This is getting right out of control." And so I think we really all collectively owe her a very deep vote of thanks for all the work that she's put in over a very long period of time. And we are very grateful for you, and thank you very much indeed. Of organising a Congress, and we then developed a very close relationship in Christchurch when he was there, enabling us, watching us run through the problems of organising the meeting at that stage. Since then, we have been in constant communication, and I have developed a great understanding with him, and he has become a very good friend of mine, because even though we live on opposite sides of the world, modern electronic communications is such that you can communicate very rapidly indeed. And I have found him to be very supportive of myself as president, and I hope that we have been able to help you with this Congress. I would like to thank you for what you have turned on for all of us for this particular week. It has really been very special. This has been a special city to hold a meeting like this in, and I'm sure we're all grateful for your endeavours. You really have gathered together a very influential group of people to address this meeting and be speakers, and the social events that you have organised have been very first class. So again, Eliza, thank you very much indeed. So now, the last thing I would like to do is to present to him the medal, and I hope that you will wear this with honour, and we are delighted that you will be our new president for the next 3 years, and we will look forward to seeing you again in the near future.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sinclair, for your kind words. When I took upon myself the task of organizing the 9th International Dental Congress on Modern Pain Control, I didn't realize it was a package deal, combined with presidency. But now, when the initial task is almost behind me, I find myself looking forward for the challenges of being president. As president of IFDAS, there are a number of tasks, of things that I'd like to achieve. First of all, I'd like to strengthen the international ties between the societies within IFDAS. I would also like to broaden the member societies and to include areas of the world not yet affiliated with IFDAS. I hope, for instance, that the large delegation from Turkey to this Congress will materialize into a member society, and that the individual representative from countries like Portugal, Poland, Russia, Slovenia, will return home and establish a local society, a local dental anesthesia society, as I once did. It has always been a goal of IFDAS to promote the international exchange of knowledge, technology, research in dental anesthesia, analgesia, and sedation. Being part of the academic society or community, I see this as one of the prime goals of my term in office, in an area which I believe I can contribute much. There is another goal I'd like to see IFDAS adopt. It is not enough to be interested in strengthening internally our international societies or individual societies. It is time we reach out to the larger public and make it aware that it's possible to receive dental treatment without fear or pain. This means constant contact with the media and wide exposure to what's happening in our field. IFDAS is in a position to supply its member societies with most up-to-date developments in the field and disseminating it to its local media. Only through the increasing demand of the special services we can give to our patient can we hope to expand and make an impact on the dental community. This is not an easy task to easily attainable dream, but easily attainable dreams are not challenging. As a new president of IFDAS, I'd like to say a few parting words to the past president, Dr. John Sinclair. Even though I'm relatively new in IFDAS, I can already testify to the excellent work Dr. Sinclair has done in promoting the goals of IFDAS. During his term in office, international communication became more established and with the regular appearance of newsletters under the editorship of Professor Matsuura. And the tie with IFDAS being strengthened with ties with FDI being strengthened, I want to thank him for his invaluable help and advice in organizing this Congress, and hope he will continue to contribute to IFDAS of his experience. In appreciation to this contribution to IFDAS, as President, I'd like to present him this certificate. This medallion as immediate past president, which is quite heavy and honorable. And a label pin Thank you very much. I'm fortunate in having an excellent executive council to work with, and I'd like to present the new executive council member. I'd like to, of course, to present Dr. John Sinclair, who is continuing in his blessed work in this organization. As past president, I'd like to present Dr. Jim Granger, Secretary General. Please stand up. I'd like to present to you Dr. Wolfgang Jacobs, who will be our treasurer. Please stand up. And I'd like to call Dr. Joel Weaver to stand up. He's going to be our editor. And I'd like to ask Dr. John Yagela to stand up. He's going to be our representative. And I'd like to ask Dr. Kaneko to stand up. Dr. Kaneko is going to be our representative. And I'd like to ask Dr. Andrea Wraith is going to be our European representative. And finally, I'd like to present to you our next President-elect, Dr. Chris Holden. Please. Would the new President-elect please come forward and say a few words?
At the second International Dental Congress on Modern Pain Control, the leader of the Japanese delegation, Dr. Kabuta, and the leader of the English delegation, my father, Jerry Holden, got together and decided to conceive the formation of IFDAS. That came into being in 1982 in Japan with the first true international meeting of IFDAS. We've been through a number of meetings since then. And it was strange that last night at the Lawrence of Arabia meeting, I went up to a table and sitting there was the first Secretary General, Dr. Peter Sykes, Professor Kabuta, and also my father. And I thought, it seems very strange that now, 3 years from now, I'll have the honour of inviting you to come to Scotland for the UK to host, for the second time, an International Dental Congress in Modern Pain Control. But before we look forward to Scotland, I had to think, how do we better what they've done in Israel? We all want to do better each time. Now, hasn't it been a marvellous Congress? The scientific programme, the social programme. As I smoked on that pipe last night, I had too much wine to drink, and I looked up at the stage and saw that beautiful belly dance. I thought, oh, we'll just ask her to come back next time. My abiding memory of Israel will be alluring not for just yesterday evening, but for the historical and great city of Jerusalem. But now for the future, I would like to invite you to a warm Scottish welcome for something totally different, a complete contrast to Israel, a haunting, generous, fabulous people. And we'd like you to say, please come to Scotland, Edinburgh in 2003, and we'll give you a great time. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Chris. And now I'd like to take this opportunity to thank to our Master of Ceremonies this evening and previous evening, May Rakosh and his wife, Gila. For the magnificent work they've done in helping me organizing this Congress, and especially for the superb program last night at the American Colony and the opening night at the Tower of David. It was a pleasure working with them and knowing that I could depend upon them. Thank you very much both. And one last word I'd like to say to our Scientific Committee Chairman, Ilana Eli, would please stand up. I'd like to express our appreciation for the fantastic work you've done for enriching this Congress scientific content. Thank you very much. Now I think we can enjoy the rest of the meal. Thank you for your patience.
First speaker then is Professor Patel.
I would like to present very shortly a case of a young woman who has tachycardia. Blood rate was, heart rate was 120 per minute. Sweating, it was 1 to 2,000.
Okay, 200,000. Okay. What position is she sitting in the dental chair?
Dental position.
What is dental position? To me, it's supine. That's to me dental position. Is she sitting upright? Is she sitting like this?
No, she is
supine.
Yeah.
So that would eliminate, in our thinking, possibly sinking.
In contrast to drugs like penicillin, which may of themselves generate an immediate anaphylaxis, to my knowledge, if there was a reaction to a local anesthetic of an amide type, it takes a while for it.
Point out one other thing which is becoming more popular, and that's hypersensitivity to latex in the gloves that you use. There are some people who are horribly allergic to the latex glove.
I think the cause is you treat it the same. Airway. This patient presented this way. Is the airway good? Yes? Okay. Is the patient breathing?
Titrate drugs orally. You can't titrate drugs rectally. You can't titrate drugs intravenously. You have one shot to make this kid sleepy. And you take your best shot, you give them an appropriate...
A certain endpoint. This is where patient-controlled sedation comes in. If you allow the patient to control the sedation, then the patient will get the sedation.
Experiences with anesthetic and sedative complications.
Dr. Trigger, ladies and gentlemen, since I'm the last speaker for the last minutes, I dare to admit that dental anesthesia is not my specialty. Therefore, I'm not able to present a case report. But reporting accidents in general, not only in dental anesthesia, and collecting the reports are very helpful to prevent repeated errors. Aviation industry and occupational health have been successful in improving safety by building up systems in evaluating mishaps and preventing accidents by using the following tools. First, enforce put legislative pressure to force the industries to follow them. A recent report on human errors in the health system, published this year by the Committee on Quality of Healthcare in America, which was established by the Institute of Medicine at the National Academy of Sciences, confirmed that such a process can significantly reduce errors and tragic mishaps also in the health system. They mention as an example the dramatic improvement of outcome in hospital-based anesthesia during the last 20 years. 20 years ago, anesthesia-related deaths occurred in 2 out of 10,000 anesthetized patients. In the late 90s, it has been only 1 in 200 to 300,000. That means anesthesia became about 30 times safer in hospital, in spite of the fact that patients became older, operations more difficult and longer, and as such, risks higher. Even American and also German insurances have dropped the premiums for anesthesiologists significantly during the last 5 to 10 years due to less legal claims. Ambulatory anesthesia is still a little bit less safe, and outcome is much worse still in office-based anesthesia, as I shall show you later. Office-based anesthesia and sedation can be as safe as hospital-based one if one follows the same rules. Let us look at what happened the last 20 years in the process of hospital-based anesthesia to learn for office-based anesthesia. I extracted the data mainly from epidemiological reviews from United States, Germany, Scandinavia, and the United Kingdom. In the closed claims analysis in the United States, respiratory complications were the most common causes of lawsuits. Also, most of them, as you heard before, are known to be preventable. Inadequate monitoring were found in more than 50% of the cases. So let us look if there is some correlation between monitoring and respiratory accident. In the cases where no pulse oximeter and no capnograph were used, you can see here, 25% of the claims, that's the yellow bar, were caused by inadequate ventilation. In the cases where these monitoring tools were used, inadequate ventilation nearly disappeared from the claims. The relationship between monitoring and respiratory insufficiency is even more evident from the Finnish data. You can see they had, in this time, in 86, that's nearly 15 years ago, only 5 cases on anesthesia-related deaths, and none of them due to respiratory insufficiency. Now, it's explainable here. I'm sorry that this color is not so good here. You can see that already at this time, they had in Finland nearly every operating room pulse oximetry, and they had in 3/4 of them already capnography. This was due to the Finnish Datex company, who was the first one who was able to sell monitors quite reasonably. In the German statistics, they evaluated 200 anesthesia-related deaths during this period, in spite of the fact that more than 40% of them had an underlying respiratory disease. No respiratory complication occurred during anesthesia and surgery. You see, they had no complication at all. But if you look postoperatively, they had 56.1% complication and 30% died due to respiratory problems. Though this shows, and you can believe, usually an anesthesiologist will only discharge his patient from the operating room if he can talk to him and if he is able to communicate with him. So these patients are very similar to your so-called conscious sedation patients. And that proves that conscious sedation alone is not a reason to release a patient. They had the problem possible, and there is need for more postoperative care. Another point about who is providing the anesthesia. Now, on this side you have a slide which comes from a time which is very long time ago, 30 years ago, and we hope or we believe that is not anymore true anymore. There was a study in the North Carolina anesthesia group. They studied mortality concerning of provider. You can see the anesthesia team, there was 1 death of 28,000 anesthetics. And if you look at the dentist, it was 1 death in 11,500. It's about 3 times as much. And there is also, this difference is even to see more. Because the anesthesia team, there are usually 2 people who do anesthesia for all types of cases, for long, for difficult, for old patients, whatever it is. While usually the dentist, if he does anesthesia and he works alone, or he did it at this time, it was a short case, and they were usually healthy patients. If we look here, then we have data which are very recent. It concerns office-based anesthesia. I got this data from the last textbook of Miller, the 5th edition, which just came out a few months ago. And you can see hospital-based anesthesia, as I said before, is about 200,000 cases. Office-based anesthesia, about 60,000 cases. That's 3 times as often mortality. And here they even mention that the hospital-based cases were all procedures, all risks, office-based anesthesia, minor procedures, and healthy individuals. This data more or less caused an outcry by Gravenstein in the Anesthesia Patient Safety Foundation newsletter. And here you have the 2 titles he has put in: Let No Patient Be Harmed by Anesthesia, and Anesthesia Safety Evolution Now Threatened by Office-Based Anesthesia. What this means is that he's afraid that damaging the achievements and
our specialty. Now, office-based anesthesia and sedation should never be less safe than in hospital or ambulatory environment. Now, the reason is that there came out a lot of guidelines, and I think I do not need to go into details of guidelines for office-based anesthesia because this subject was extensively presented and discussed yesterday in the morning session by Parker, Bieber, Kadari, Jagela, and by Myron Yasta in his keynote lecture. To put all the details in a nutshell, all guidelines, as a consequence of the large collections of case reports I mentioned above, emphasize 4 factors: monitoring, recovery care, emergency awareness, and personal training. Every one of us has now an internet and can load down websites or informations. And yesterday already Parker mentioned that you can find on the ASA website the practice guidelines for sedation analgesia by non-anesthesiologists. But I recommend especially the APSF website, the website of the Anesthesia Patient Safety Foundation, because they emphasize in their titles the term conscious sedation. This is more or less a copy of the first website. There are many websites of that. And you can download from this website checklists and emergency algorithms for printing them as posters for your office. I suggest this slide be left a bit long on the screen, so in case somebody wants to write down these websites,